Forest Landscaping in Jackson, and the sign above this greenhouse says Rita's Place. We're going to find some rare and unusual plants. Followers of Volunteer Gardener are very well aware of Rita Randolph and the way that she can put containers together, but more than that, it's the rare and unusual side of Rita Randolph.
Thank you.
Rita, tell us something about what you're going on here where you are and some of the plants that you're using in this one.
Well, thanks for coming by to see me again. It's been a year or so, but now I work at Morris Nursery now, and they let me build a greenhouse and just stock it with whatever I want to. So I brought a lot of my rare and unusual stuff with me and propagate it and offer people, you know how I love foliage and chartreuse, stuff like that, but I also like other colors too.
This is an unusual plant. What is this?
This came from the Biltmore. I used to grow plants for the Biltmore until they stopped their horticulture program. And this is a rare Coleus that they found growing under their bench. And turns out it may have been genetically damaged. It's a triploid or a diploid or something like that, which means thicker stems, shiny leaves, thicker leaves, less likelihood to bloom. But when it does bloom, it takes a lot longer than other Coleuses, but when it does bloom, it breeds true. So I used to breed a lot of really interesting Coleus with this. When it would bloom, I'd go around the greenhouse and find a pink one that I wanted to cross it with and stuff like that.
See, now that's the knowledge that you've obtained and acquired through all these years of working, and that is so fascinating to me.
Well, Coleus is easy to breed too. You can get out your little paintbrush and do some crosses and have progeny that year. You don't have to wait, you know, like you do with older, woodier plants.
And the key word is you have the desire to do that.
It's fun.
Yes,
it's
it
fun.
is. Well, what else is in this? I see a little familiar thing right here.
When you were getting ready to come in, I was getting ready to put this pot together, and I love red flash caladium, and this is one of my foliage plants that a lot of people do grow. It's called chicken gizzards. It's Aldrinanthera, and it got the name chicken gizzards for the red form that looks like a, you know, obviously. And then I was going to take my fern introduction, Rita's Gold, stick it in there. But see how it just makes the colors pop?
That's a unifying color, right?
Chartreuse is the only color that goes with every other color.
That's right.
And somebody told me, oh no, white does.
No.
And no, white muddies up earth tone colors and makes them dull. So chartreuse is the one color that goes with every other color.
Now there's chartreuse in this.
This is another one of my favorite chartreuse plants. This is a Coleus that I bred a few years ago, and it's been on the market. It's in several, you know, cities, and it's called Gold Pagoda, and it's naturally dwarf. Actually grows in sort of a pyramidal shape, and I called it Gold Pagoda because it was a seedling that I found next to one of my concrete Chinese pagodas.
Well, now let me ask you, in this process of seeding and paintbrushing and all of that, what is the time limit for how long it takes to come up with this new plant?
Oh, just a few months.
Is it an accident? Like you said, under the bench?
Totally. I mean, breeders will play with pollination and do several different crosses and grow them all out, and they may get one plant out of thousands.
Yeah.
So it just turned out that I had one good plant.
It's like Iris and Daylily. They have a trash pile.
Oh, and you don't want to know what they throw away.
I know.
It's gorgeous.
I know that there's, I've seen some other examples of things that you have.
This is a fun plant too. It's called Moon Valley Pilea, and it's just beautiful textural foliage. And the funny thing about it is you're looking at the blooms.
Yes.
And with the changing of the humidity or the barometric pressure, the bloom bud will actually pop open and it looks like smoke. Just a little dusting of smoke. I was hoping it would do it in front of the camera, but it's not going to.
You know what? I've seen that happen on something I call a weed in my garden.
Well,
I call it they were sending out the seeds. Okay.
So it was sending out pollen, but those are the little blooms. But I just love it for the foliage, and it's a great little shady plant.
Okay. Well, I know that there's some more interesting things down the pathway.
Yeah, I can show you some other stuff.
Okay. What's in your hands?
This is an old heirloom plant that I got from Alan Armitage down at University of Georgia. Most people know who Alan Armitage is and follows him. And I worked in his garden a little bit last year, and he shared cuttings of this phlox with me because I liked it so much. And it's called Wanda. We don't really know much about it, except I can tell you it is the most disease-resistant phlox I have ever seen. There's not a speck of disease, mildew, nothing ever on it. It never stops blooming, even when you cut it back. So I went back to visit him, and he had lost it. And I actually got it a couple of years ago and went back last year, and he had lost it. It has a little grassy foliage, so somebody thought it was a weed and pulled it up. And he goes, oh, I lost it. So I gave him some back. But I've Googled it and everything, trying to find out who bred it or where it came from, and just can't find anything other information than people saying I got it from Alan Armitage.
So that makes it fair game. You can propagate this because it's not a patent.
It's not patented. Nobody knows where it came from. If anybody finds out, I wish they'd tell me.
Well, the thing that interests me, two things. There is no powdery mildew.
Nothing.
And the time of bloom.
Always in bloom.
Will it cascade? Or
if it's in the shade, it'll, gravity will take over and it'll flop and more will come up, so it'll grow in the shade. But if it's in the sun, it's upright and vertical like other phloxes are.
I want to put something else in your hands.
Okay.
Okay. You go ahead and talk about some of these selected plants in here.
Well, you know how I love chartreuse. So we'll start right here in the corner with this. This is dancing flame, Salvia splendens dancing flame. And a friend of mine, we all know Carol Reese, bought this plant for me a few years ago just because of the beautiful foliage. Well, she called me a few weeks later screaming, it's a salvia. And I went, yeah. so here's the bloom on it. And hummingbirds do love it, but of course I love it even when it's not in bloom.
And I recognize this is not like the annual salvia that everybody puts red, white, and blue with. This has the type of bloomscape that like coral nymph and
it's more natural, upright, more vigorous too. It gets quite large.
It's not compact, it arches.
And it branches and grows, instead of having to edge it on.
Okay.
The chartreuse plant next to it is another one of my favorites, and it's not tropical at all. This is a hardy herbaceous Aralia. Like you have an Aralia that's a tree form. This one dies back to the ground every year, but comes up with gusto the next year. Dies down to the ground completely, and then in the spring you'll see little pips. So I tell people to mark it with a rock or a label so they don't accidentally step on the little new pips that are coming up.
Yeah.
But this one's been happily growing in a pot for 3 or 4 years. It gets about 3 to 4 feet tall, and then in the late summer it has a big white umbel.
Oh.
Not like Queen Anne's lace or something, dill,
Or elderberry.
Yeah.
Like that.
And so a really nice large white flower. And I just brought this one in to display, the size that's commonly found in a garden center, which is right there.
I found this quite interesting.
I noticed you're petting it. So.
Yeah, I like it because I like the color of the new growth.
This is one of my favorite, and of course I have 100 favorite plants. This is a evergreen hardy shrub that cascades. It's called box honeysuckle. Lonicera is the family of honeysuckle, the vine.
Right.
So this is in the same family. So it's Lonicera nitida, Baggesen's gold. The green foliage is last year's foliage. It's evergreen, even during a hard winter.
Wow.
And then the new growth comes out gold and stays gold all summer. It only turns green late fall and winter. And the largest one I've ever seen is at a friend of mine's house in Philadelphia. And they planted it in the ground, and wherever it cascaded, it rooted. And then it came up, and then it fell over again, so it looks like a green cloud.
Oh my goodness.
Only about 2.5, 3 feet tall at the most. I'm glad you like this because this is a hummingbird magnet. This is John Elsley Manettia. And Manettia is a hardy vine, and I told you I didn't like tags that much because sometimes they give you the wrong information.
Right.
You'll look it up and it'll say zone 8 or 10, but I have had this plant come back for me for 10 years until this winter. This winter would have gotten it.
Now Jackson is considered a 7A.
7A.
And I'm a 7B.
But we all had 6 winter.
I know we did.
Yeah, so it might have gotten it this winter, but it's such a nice vine because it doesn't make a blob.
Okay.
It just decorates a trellis real nicely.
I know there's a geranium somewhere.
Right there.
That's right.
There's a geranium.
Yes.
That geranium is an old variety called Madame Landry, and it was bred in the South, probably somewhere around the Gulf Coast, I'm not really sure. But my mother grew that plant when I was a little girl, and when it went off the market, I started saving the cuttings every year. And this sounds crazy, but I would not sell them unless the person promised to bring it back to me in the fall so I could root cuttings.
Sure.
And if fall arrived in a year and I didn't have enough plants, I'd get on the phone because I knew who had them. And I would call and get it back. So I've kept that plant for, 35 years. Well, Annette, this is a real special plant. I've been growing this for kids for 20 or so years. It's Mimosa pudica, or sensitive plant. And what I want you to do is touch that leaf right there and see what happens.
You mean a kid that's
Just
told,
touch
don't
it.
touch, I can touch.
Touch it, a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, now
Pause.
watch this when I shake it. Go.
Oh, die.
And kids just love it. But it teaches them that plants are sensitive too.
Well, sure.
It teaches them about thorns, because see, there's little thorns on the
Yes.
stem. So I say, don't squeeze the stem, but I give them away to kids.
Hey, you know what? I like what you did better than touching it. I'm going to just shake around and roll
shake
this
one.
one. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so it opens up in about 10 minutes.
How long does it? Oh, in 10
In
minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they close at night.
Well, Rita, as always, to stand next to you, I feel like I'm standing next to an encyclopedia.
Oh, you're funny. You give me
No,
goosebumps.
I'm not funny. I mean that with all sincerity. And you've
Sweetie.
introduced some plants to us that have traveled the roads. But most of all, you've told us where you can find them. They're all right here at Morris Nursery and Landscaping
Yeah.
in Jackson. And thank you, because I know you've had a long season. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.